Let's talk about this because I haven't been able to respond back to my friend.
Yeah.
Our friend, we talked and stuff. We've been kind of up in the air. It's called the Jimmy Dore's plan. I'm calling it the Dore Referendum.
I like it.
Jimmy Dore has come up with a plan. We talked about it. We were on the Action for Assange visual. We got their opinions because I'm a little bit like, I don't know about this, fam.
Right.
But Jimmy Dore's plan is, and let's put up the first tweet, is to pretty much say the squad, any progressive, Rokana, anybody right there, you can please pressure Congress and Nancy Pelosi. All the progressives in Congress should withhold their vote for Pelosi as Speaker unless she agrees to bring up Medicare for all for a vote. And it will only take a handful of votes to pull this off. This is your leverage, in caps. Please use it. Force a Medicare for all vote. Fam, he was talking to Barbara Lee. What do you think?
So they're not going to do it. And I know Jimmy has said multiple times, like, I don't necessarily think they're going to do it. But he is doing the right strategic move by exposing them. Like, hey, progressives, you should be doing this. This shouldn't be an ask. This should be automatic. This is what they fucking should be doing. They should be going out there and withholding their vote and standing up to Pelosi, opposing her, and saying, if you don't support Medicare for all, if you don't do this, this, and that, I'm sorry, you don't get our vote, and we're going to hold our ground, kind of like the Tea Party, right? That's what we've all been trying to we've been discussing this for a while, but they haven't done it. And you know what? They're not going to do it, you guys. Because it's not about doing the right thing. It's about the fact that Big Pharma and these insurance companies have so much control and power in our government that these people are afraid to oppose Pelosi because they're afraid to lose whatever sort of power hold that they have.
Any committee appointees too, they're afraid to lose that.
Exactly.
They don't want to lose their committee position.
Exactly. But the reason this is still I think a decent idea is because Jimmy gets a lot of shit like we do when it comes to, oh, well, he never gives any solutions. He's not doing anything. 17 minutes, Sam Cedar sat there and literally was spewing bullshit with Emma Vigilant about how Jimmy doesn't do anything, how he never does anything. This is like a slap. This is like, look, I'm doing something. You guys, this is an action that I'm supporting, and it exposes these people because when they don't support it, when they don't stand up to Pelosi, I hope some of these progressives who are still duped and think the squad is the second coming of Jesus are going to be able to figure out real quick that they're not on your side. So there it is. Prove him wrong. Prove me wrong. Yeah. I hope they do it, but I don't think they will.
So I kind of agree with you in certain senses that the fact that I don't think they will do it, but I do think, and I was listen, I'm at the point now, I said it's enough with the Democratic Party. It's like, why are we going to go into the mafia and try to reform it from the inside? Not going to happen. We've been using the meme, right?
Right.
So at what point do we say enough is enough? I thought the reason why they were starting MPP was the fact that they don't have to deal with the Democratic Party anymore. So the fact that they're still dealing with the Democratic Party kind of is bothering. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
no, I feel that way too.
Why have we been dealing this again? But it is going to, it's putting this in front and center of a lot of people with this huge audience to say, look at them. Now we're giving them a solution, because how many times have we said on the show, fam, that it's Pelosi that's the keeper of the gate, that they should just take standalone bills to Nancy, the squad, and call a press conference. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar with the rent relief, saying she's not putting up our bill for a vote, like the Freedom Caucus, the Tea Party. We talked about it when John Boehner went to them and said, I made a deal with Obama. They said, well, you didn't make your deal with us, pal. We have demands and you haven't met it. Yeah. And even though we're in the same party or side, you're not getting our vote until you give us what we want. They should be doing that. If the squad was for real, they should be doing this. But also, fam, too, for me, the problem is, even if they did do it, is that enough?
No, it's not, because then it would go to a vote and it would get knocked down. So for me, it's got to be bigger than Medicare for all. It should be a list of demands, and the squad should be arming protests, sit-ins. They have that. They have the following. They have the ability to do that. They have the people on their side. They could easily do much more than the minimal that Jimmy's asking, but they're not doing it. And that's the whole point. You have to, I feel you. I 100% agree with you on that. Like, we need to leave the Democratic Party. We need to cut the cord. We need to cut all ties. But this is like kind of like throwing it in their face. Like, okay, fine. You want us to call, you want us to ask, you want people to do this work, fine, they'll do it. But you'll see what happens. Absolutely nothing. They're going to find a way to knock this shit down because they don't want to do it, you guys. And so all of this proves is, hey, we've tried everything now. I'm sorry, that's it. We're done.
Yeah, I still think there's a real big ideological difference with the squad and progressives out there. It was kind of funny the show you did. You guys talked about this. So, you know, it's not just Medicare for all is not the only answer. But don't get me wrong. Listen, when I went to urgent care the other day, they wouldn't give me a COVID test because I didn't have insurance. Yeah. So I'm not going to sit there and say that Medicare is not important, but it's not the only thing. And the way we phrase it and sell it is important. You know what I'm saying? Because I think you would probably disagree with me right now is that I'm not, and I hate insurance. I've been paying insurance my whole life on my car. I just looked at I was like, where did my $200 go? It went to my insurance because I got full insurance on my car, and I hated been paying it for so long and barely have had a fender bender. But it's still, I don't want to take away people's right to buy insurance if they want it. But you have talked about we have to see, you're different. But see, I mean, that's the thing. We have to talk about these things. And that's it's what I'm saying is it's not the only difference in giving more power and credence to the Democratic Party when we have such an ideological difference. They don't know anything about Section 230. They don't know anything about our civil liberties or talk about foreign policy. And now they're shining away from having fair elections when their own leadership was complaining about these machines months ago. I mean, there's so many different things that are things that they're just like, no, I just don't agree with the elected progressives, if that's what you call them. Their ideology is missing a lot of things. Oh,
absolutely. So, their ideology is absolutely missing a lot of things. But I mean, I just think the insurance thing is 100% based on a for-profit system. It has nothing to do with anything. And like, this is why they're even these people who are still tied to this for-profit system. A lot of not the progressives necessarily are taking that money, but they're controlled by that system still. And so it becomes like we could get into the public option argument all day long, but it's like, as long as these companies have a seat at the table where they're involved in the legislation, at some point it's going to become going to become a for-profit system if you let a foot in the door. That's how, as long as they keep their foot in the door, that's why there has to be a nationalized system. And then you can buy whatever else you want to buy. If you want more of whatever it is you want, I agree. I think that's fine. But as far as everybody having healthcare, that's like an archaic thing. I mean, literally third world countries have healthcare for everybody. And so I think it's a moot point to argue that, but like you're right. The progressive whatever group in Congress is completely awful on foreign policy. They're completely awful on any sort of civil liberties issues. They haven't said a word about Julian Assange. They haven't said a word about any of these issues. And they pretend that they're for Medicare for all. This is the thing. They're for Medicare for all. They're for a Green New Deal. But what are they really doing to achieve that? And that's what I mean. Yeah. They're not taking opposition to it. So really, are they really for it? Yeah. That's what,
in fact, they're not even taking opposition. They're joining the people who facilitate the problems, because the Democratic Party, the leadership of the Democratic Party, they're not communist. They're capital globalist. Okay, and they'll sell out. They'll sell you out in a heartbeat to make money for themselves. And we'll talk about this later for what's going on in California. Right? They'll sell you out to make a dime, and they act like they're fighting for the little guy. And yet they're the ones who have facilitated all these huge problems when it comes to homelessness and bad health care and shitty jobs and these lockdowns. I mean, they're awful, the leadership. What I like here in this next tweet is Jimmy, and this is a very important problem. When you talk about who they kind of capitulate to, Mark Pocan, okay, he's the vice chair, right? Once again, he's another one who says on a TV show, oh, we can't put it up for a vote because it won't win. Like, what kind of shit is that? No, if you're a progressive, you should be holding the line. First of all, I don't even know who Representative Mark Pocan is.
He was a Bernie chair. Bernie, I think he was a co-chair at some point. He's not liked by my friends in Wisconsin. He's a fraud. He canceled a Palestinian event at the last minute because he didn't want to get the backlash from all these Zionist groups. Yeah, he's not a progressive. He parades himself as one, but he's not.
Jimmy Dore says, revealing that Mark Pocan's voicemail was down over the weekend because so many calls urging him to withhold his vote for Pelosi as speaker until she agreed to hold a vote on Medicare for all. He's ignoring all those calls and instead gaslighting you with this healthcare news. I mean, because they do. They act like, oh, it's a right. You should get healthcare.
Right.
Blah, blah,
and then they're
blah.
like, no, we're not.
And then they turn around. They stab you in the back every single chance you got. Now, Ranya's into it. Rania Kalik put it up there. I just wanted to assure some people who are out there. Great push from Jimmy Dore, laying out how progressives in Congress can force a vote on Medicare for all. Do they have the spine to do it? Fam, I think you already answered.
Yeah, no, they don't.
No, they don't have the spine to do it and stuff. But they also, once again, because ideologically, and this is with a lot of our progressive friends. I'm going to say friends right now because we're at battle with them. I mean, they're amazing people. The progressives that we know, the progressives that we got started with here in California are the ones who work the food banks, get people showers. They are the real activists doing the works in the streets. I love these people left and right. We just got a call. Somebody's going to send us groceries and all that stuff for people who have COVID. I mean, these people are amazing. But we know these people, fam, too, when it comes to policy and it comes to reaching across the aisle. They've been duped to say, no, don't talk to those Nazis. And they don't even pay attention to the policies that are very nuanced and go deep and really dictate what we can and cannot do as far as our lawmakers are concerned. So
right, no, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just they don't know what we know because this is our job to know all these things, and that's part of it too. What sometimes when you're on the ground doing all the activism, you don't really necessarily know what's going on behind the scenes, and that's it's difficult. We all have the things we do that we're really good at. So yeah, I don't blame some people, but there's a little bit of like, not everybody that disagrees with you is a Nazi. Are there real Nazis? Yes, but not everybody that disagrees with you is automatically one, and we should stop just throwing that word around because it diminishes when it really is somebody. Because
the majority of people are not. And I mean, there's a lot of people that have disagreements with you and stuff like that. It might even seem like they're being mentally, or I don't want to say mentally, but they're being somewhat racist in nature and stuff with the whole wall and all that stuff. And I
mean, that is like an anti-immigrant stance,
I do. But there are a lot of people who live on the border of Texas. We know what's going on in Juarez and all that shit. I mean, I think it's just a complicated situation. But I always say, well, why don't we just go back to the roots? Yeah, well, the roots of the problems.
Right.
Once again, we're supplying all the guns that kill people in Juarez. We have the gun club loophole where they can go and walk out, buy a gun, rifles, sell it to a Mexican cartel guy in the parking lot for 5 times the money. You need that money to pay. You know what I'm saying? They made a movie about that, The Mule, I think, with Clint Eastwood, who was selling weapons because he needed the money to feed his family with his illnesses and stuff. So they do those things. Then the murder rate in Juarez is like 3 times the rate of what it is in Afghanistan and stuff. So we don't ever identify the problems. And we always talk about when it comes to immigration, it's like, okay, well, let's stop with our imperialistic ways and we won't send so many people here because we wouldn't tear their country apart so we can resource extract bananas or whatever the frig, or from Bolivia if we're stealing lithium. So, we always go to the root of the problem. So, I mean, I think these conversations are nuanced, but even if it does appear to be racist, fam, I think we still got to get in there and have conversations with these people. I mean,
if you have a chance to go on Fox and talk about why, Tucker Carlson is wrong, then do that. Like, or talk about why, the idea that Biden and Harris are communists is so far from true. They have more in common with the right than they have in common with any communists. So, like, it's these ideas that need to be talked about, and we can't talk about them and change minds if we don't talk to people who we disagree with.
And that's the thing. The people who are nuanced about that will complain about the money ties with Seneca, with Seneca Partners and all this other things where, the Bidens have interest in money involved in China and stuff like that. But that doesn't make them a communist. So, I mean, we need to have these conversations and stuff across the board. They're a lot more nuanced than they are. And I think that you did point out a great point. When you spend so much time in the streets and doing all this work, it's hard to dive into this stuff. I mean, we spend so much time going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole that we've been armed with information where, we're not out there most of our time consumed. Because I know some of these people work 12, 14-hour days, giving people groceries, making people sure have showers. These people. We know who these people are. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to belittle them for their political decisions, but it's concerning the fact that they get duped by the establishment to go for a certain narrative. Sorry for wasting so much time. Marianne Williamson, hugely important from Jimmy Dore. Watch and spread this around. We need Speaker Pelosi to put Jayapal Medicare for All bill up for a vote, and there's a way to make it happen. She points it out. So some people have got into the act.
The thing with Marianne Williamson is she's like hit or miss, like mostly misses lately when it comes to pushing Joe Biden, when it comes to these things. Like, you know, she was great on the debate stage when she was talking about immigration connecting to foreign policy. But like when it comes to a lot of like she's still at the end of the day a rich woman who is in politics. So I take what she says with a grain of salt, you know, like I go back and forth with her.
Well, my questions here for this topic are, what would this accomplish or what will this retract from if it actually happens? In other words, let's say the squad does do this and they force Nancy Pelosi to put up a vote and it gets shot down like we think it will, right? What does that do then for the squad's power? What does that do for their movement? What does that do for people getting behind them?
Right. I mean, if they were smart, they would do this, because even if they weren't serious about getting it, it would make them look like they were trying, and people would literally be like, oh, well, they tried, so at least they're trying. It would elevate their power. It would elevate their hold. I still wouldn't fall for it, but everybody else would. And they would be like, okay, yay, the squad is at least trying, and it would actually help them.
Exactly.
With the progressive movement.
It'd be a great PR stunt.
It would be a great PR stunt. Yeah, that's how PR works. You pretend that you're for something, and then you really don't. Behind the scenes, you're not really pushing for it. And the Democratic establishment is really great when it comes to PR stunts. I mean, this is what they do. They live for PR stunts. So I'm actually, I would actually be stupid of them not to do it, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that they're not going to do it and stuff. And that's the next thing. What will this accomplish, or what will this attract from if it doesn't happen at all? And they just go ahead and they endorse Mama Bear, and she becomes the speaker again. And what does that mean for the squad right then? I mean, that's the whole beauty of Jimmy kind of pointing this out, because I don't think Jimmy thinks this is going to happen.
No,
I haven't discussed this with him, but I think he knows he's going to put it in front of all right, people, look, we just gave you a solution. Do what the Freedom Caucus did to the right. You do to the left. Say you're going to withhold your vote. They don't do it. You've been exposed.
Yeah, and if it doesn't happen, though, not much is going to change. I think more people now than say like 6 months ago are aware that AOC is not who they thought they were. But she's still got a huge following, and she's got a lot of the centrists behind her too, and the media loves her. I mean, if she was any real opposition, she would be smeared by the media. She would be hated by centrists, but that's not the case because she's not real opposition. So whatever. And I don't think it's going to do much to them if they don't do it. I think the people who have always believed in them will continue to believe in them, because it's hard to, people would rather lie to themselves and accept the truth sometimes because it's too hard for them to handle.
See, the third option I have, if it halfway works, meaning we get some actual floor discussions about this, but it just falls short, because I'd like to see in Congress who would be like, okay, well, those people who would push for the public option and say, well, I'll settle for the public option. Let's at least do something where we can open up Medicare or Medicaid, whatnot, to some people, and they can opt in if they want to. It was what Dennis Kucinich wanted when he was like, this is the bottom line. He wanted a Medicare system for everybody, but he says, I want at least a public option. Let's not sign on to the ACA unless there's a public option. So I'd like to see that conversation there and stuff, and seeing who Congress maybe can be moved or left or right. And I think it would also expose who on the left and on the right belongs to the establishment and who the free thinkers are, that we can say, okay, this person's at least trying to present solutions. No?
I mean, I'm 100% against the public option. So for me, it would, I personally would be like, yeah, fuck that. Because again, it would be a setup to fail system. Because you would still have those people writing legislation, and it would eventually, they would say, oh, it's too expensive to have a public option. Let's go back to what we had. That's like the whole ploy with the public option plan. So, I mean, if people would be willing to do that, I think some people would vote for it. I think like some of the more moderate Democrats and Republicans would vote for it. But what
if they came up with a public option plan, but they kept Big Pharma out of the room? Like it was like a Dennis Kucinich kind of, and Bernie Sanders and stuff.
How could you keep Big Pharma out of the room when
you're writing legislation, right?
So having, okay, let me put it this way. Having a public option means that if you're rich, you can buy way better insurance than what I can afford.
Yes.
That's what it means. So you are still making healthcare for profit. You're still saying that if you're poor, you only get shit healthcare. But if you're wealthy enough to pay more money, then you get much better healthcare. That's why I'm so against it. It's such an elitist, classist type of plan. And these people are still going to do all their for-profit. They're basically going to diminish what you get for free and try to say, well, if you want to actually get good healthcare, then pay. So you're going to end up paying anyway. This is why, like, it's just, it's like, no, it's like we either do it fully or people are going to die. It's like that. People are fucking dying. People are fucking dying. You couldn't get a fucking test because you don't have insurance. I mean, to me, that is absolutely ridiculous. There should be absolutely no place for these people to have a seat at the table. But I mean, even that they won't do. That's the thing. I know that's what you're saying. Even that they won't fucking do it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very curious to see, because I remember Dennis Kucinich wanted to push for the public option. He says, if I'm going to make
when was that?
This was when the ACA was coming around. Remember that?
Yeah, like 2000.
Yeah. Obama had it.
2004. Oh, 2004.
2008.
Obama wasn't in office in 2004.
It was when Obama got in office. It was a big thing. He had to take up Dennis Kucinich and Air Force One, fly him around, and he still refused to whatever and stuff. That's more discussion for another day. Johnny, your thoughts on this whole situation? What would you like to see? What do you think about Jimmy's plan, and where do you stand on everything?
Well, he's just asking for a vote.
Yeah.
Well, one, the squad's not going to do it. They're not going to do it. And then two, even if they put it on the floor for a vote, it's not going to pass.
With this,
But then I guess you get to see who
Yeah.
doesn't vote for it. So then that's why. I know some people in the chat have been saying that it's just to put people on record, is what Jimmy said.
Yeah, it is. It's to put these progressives
on record,
to show that they're really not that progressive. And that's why I think that's the beauty of it. Like, you know, if they don't do it, their ass is on record for not really pushing for this, you know? And if they do it, and then you see who votes for it and who doesn't, then their ass is also on record. So, I mean, even though I don't think they're going to do it, I think it's a good way to show how spineless these people are, including some members of the beloved squad. So
yeah.